Hi, and you are?
Jeremy Harper.
And what's the name of your piece here?
This one is Gaviota, I think. Yep.
How much is it?
3,000,
Okay,
I think.
it's fair.
Yeah.
And tell me, can you tell me about this piece? Like how it was created, about the composition, or whatever you'd like to say?
I can. Like most of us, I'm on Facebook, and I saw some pictures my sister put up that I really liked. And one of them I liked enough to save the image and later print it out. And I had this picture, a photograph of this that my sister took for a year or two, and it was just kind of shuffled in a bunch of papers. And I thought, one day I'm going to paint that. And just the other day, some of these canvases I have laying around, they get kind of old, and the spiders start living in the back, and even sometimes the rats start chewing on them. And I thought I better get on it. So I just got that and had fun with an acrylic. It's like 3 colors, all browns, 3 different browns, and then I liked it enough to like layer on some oil paint over the top of it. But it was kind of a playful thing that I was just messing around, because I'm mostly a plein air painter. I mostly paint outside, but if it's super foggy or too hot or whatever, then I'll just paint at home. But
can you tell me about the composition elements? Like, for a layperson, what's going on there?
Well, I've always thought that, I've been told that compositionally you want to have a foreground, a middle ground, and a background, and there's a foreground, a middle ground, and a background. I personally feel like there's too much sky, but if I would have bought a canvas for that photo, it would have been about this high and not had all that up there. But
you can't cut it down afterwards?
You probably could, but it's a lot of work, and it makes, I don't know, to do all that. Canvas is cheap enough if you buy them like online or when they're on sale. It's just easier to.
How much is a canvas?
I'd say the average one is between $50 and $150 if you're painting kind of large, and if you're painting really small, they're anywhere from $5 to $25.
Do you make your living from art?
I do.
And are there commercial considerations, and what are you considering? Do you have a certain audience in mind, or buyer, or how does commercial aspect?
Sometimes you do, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're just winging it and going out there and doing whatever you feel like at spur of the moment. Other times you've heard people in the past say, oh, I would love a painting of Ledbetter, and so you go make a couple and hope that they swing by again one day and buy one.
Were there any commercial considerations in either of these?
Neither one of those, no. This was just a photo I liked my sister took, and this was a guy called me that 2 of his sons lived back there in the back country of Carpinteria, and he called me one day and he said, the hills are velvet green, the lupin's blooming, there's the scar of the fire, and the whole thing together is really spectacular. And he said, you got to come up here right now. So I did. I drove up there and painted the Chismahoo Rebirth.
Very nice. What are your art influences?
Mostly Arturo Teo and
and me, but apart from that.
No, I honestly, when I was younger, I didn't have too many. I kind of gravitated towards the ones that were in everybody's mind around the entire planet, like Picasso and Van Gogh and Gauguin and stuff like that. And then when you get older and go to art school or whatever, you learn about millions of different artists. But I think that the better ones, just like in music, they kind of are the ones that stand the test of time. Like, I went through a stage for a while, like I wanted to hear nothing but new music. And for 15 years I did that, and I was fascinated by it, and I got a lot of favorites. But then I started to compare them in recent years, like to Jimi Hendrix or Van Morrison, to like these newer bands that in the last 15, 20 years have developed. And the old guys are so much better than the new guys, the new music. It just doesn't have the depth and the raw, like the elements that something magical was happening back then in the 60s and 70s that I don't really see happening now. Maybe a little bit here and there, but
you may have answered, but what influences your art other than other art?
Um, yeah, I think the ocean for sure, surfing in the ocean, and I like the flow of things like water, like the way the water moves in and out of a tide pool and swirls around big rocks and comes up and rests for a moment, and then as the tide goes, it starts to suck out and swirl around and leave again. And I like the movement of nature, especially with water and wind, the way it wraps around trees and mountains and clouds, or if you look at time-lapse clouds going over a mountain, it's neat. That kind of thing is inspiring.
Nice. Lastly, is your ego involved with your art, and if so, how?
Well, I think if your ego is not involved with yourself, you won't live. Your ego's involved. Everybody's ego's involved. It's self-preservation. You have to think about yourself, or you're gonna wither away and fall into a corner. So, yeah, I think your ego is definitely involved. I mean, some people more than others, but you have to. I don't know. You got to hold your head up and feel good about what you're doing, or I don't think you're going to do very well. You have to have some confidence. You have to instill some of that in yourself, and I think that is ego, you know.
Nice. Would you care to share some contact info, like a website or your email address?
Sure. My email address is traveljer, J-E-R, @yahoo.com, and website is jeremy-harper.com. I'm also on Instagram as Jeremy Harper Artist. And
well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.